I wanted to touch upon the villain a little
Yeah,
bit and how to really write a really good villain. And I would love to use, because we spoke about him earlier, I think there's just it's such a wonderful teaching tool, the Joker and Batman,
yeah.
specifically in The Dark Knight. I just don't think that there's been in recent history a villain written so beautifully and it's so perfect for that hero. You throw the Joker in Avatar, not so much. It doesn't work because he's not
Right.
designed for that world. But because of he's literally the mirror image of Batman, and that's what a good villain should be. Correct?
Yeah. Yes. Well, the question is, what does that mean? And you're
Yes.
absolutely right, but what does that mean?
Right.
And yes, I agree. The Joker is one of the all-time great opponents in movie history. Certainly, it is, I would say, one of the two keys for my opinion that it is the best superhero ever made. One being the fact that the original main character has got so much. He's not he's not this Superman type of character. He
Right.
is a human being who is deeply flawed and troubled.
But
And without starting with that, you can't do anything else.
can I stop you for 1 second?
Yeah,
Is Batman that amazing of a character and superhero without a Joker?
yes, he is.
Okay.
But he cannot get to that level.
Mm-hmm.
He gets to his highest level
Because of the
in
Joker.
Dark Knight because of the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
But the original source material, the reason that any Batman movie is going to be better than any Superman movie is because the original main character is human and he is his flaws, the what I call the first of the 7 major structure steps, the weakness need. He's got so much weakness need and so much ghost, so much stuff that has been troubling him for his whole life that anytime he goes into a story, you're automatically in a 100-yard dash, you're at the 50-yard line. I mean, it's a tremendous advantage. But having said that, no, he cannot get to the heights of a character without the Joker because, and I talk about this in the Anatomy of the Story, is the opponent is probably the most important single element in a story because the opponent is what causes the hero to change. Without the attack of the opponent, the hero is not motivated to change. They're not motivated to look at the great internal flaw that starts the whole story and say, hey, this is not working for me. I'm getting my clock cleaned by this opponent. And the only way I'm going to beat him is if I deal with what's really the problem here. So that's number one. And I always say in the Anatomy Story, the hero learns through the opponent. And that's an incredibly important principle in story right there. Another key principle is that the hero is only as good as the person he fights. Because, and I always use the analogy of a tennis match or a game, a sport, which is that each character drives the other to greatness. It's because of the conflict between them that each is forced to dig down. Not just one, not just the hero. Each is forced to dig down and come up with their best stuff. And then they make that punch, and then you get the counter punch. And it's testing each of them to their fullest capability. And so that when you get character change at the end for the hero, in really great stories, you're also going to get character change for the opponent. Now, you look at the Joker. The Joker is very misunderstood, in my opinion. When it came out, most critics talked about him as this nihilist. That he had nothing of value. Not so. He very definitely has a value system, but it's just a very dark value system. And his
Oh, he has a
values,
point of view. He has a definite point of view.
right. And in fact, the entire movie is a thought experiment conducted by the Joker to prove his view of humanity. which is humans are simply animals with a thin veneer of civilization. And you put them in the slightest bit of trouble, and that veneer is going to get washed away, and you're going to see what they really are, which is they're going to eat you alive. And so that's why he gives Batman these increasing moral challenges, because he's trying to prove it. And to me, the brilliance of the prisoner's dilemma thing with the ships at the end is just, one of the all-time great beats. The big problem I have with it, and the biggest problem I have with the whole movie, I didn't believe the decision.
It was too optimistic. It was too optimistic.
Yeah, you're telling me that a ship full of regular people versus a ship of criminals, murderers, and so on, that they are not going to blow up the criminal ship before the criminal ship can blow them up? It's not believable. To me, it's not believable. But having said that, the construction of it and the fact that the Joker drives the story is one of the keys to the success of this thing. And it's a technique. I talked before about plot is the biggest problem that writers have, and that's because there are more skills and techniques that go into plot than all the other writing skills combined, and people just don't know what they are. And in my opinion, the single most important plot technique of all is start with the opponent. Because what a plot really is, so we think of plot, this is one of the great misconceptions, this is one of the things I've been working on over the last few years in trying to come up with a way to explain plot to people that they could actually use, because it's so hard to get, is that plot, we think of plot as the sequence of actions that the hero takes in going after the goal. And that is, on the surface, what is happening. And that's why we always talk about plot as what happens next. Well, except the real question is, what causes what happens next? And what causes what happens next is the main opponent. And that's why what a plot really is a sequence of actions covering the entire story that the opponent comes up with to put the hero in the greatest amount of trouble. If you think of plot that way, all of a sudden, how to plot your story it may not just suddenly come to you fully blown, but you're about 50% there. That's how important that concept is.
But so, I never thought about this, but after thinking about it, you're right that the Dark Knight, Batman is not the one driving the show. Batman's doesn't have a need that needs to be fulfilled. The Joker has his thesis he needs fulfilled, and everybody around him is addressing the Joker's craziness. Right. So it's not. Batman does eventually change towards the end, obviously, and he makes that sacrifice, and he does all the things that he does, but he's just constantly reacting to the Joker. The Joker is the spine of the movie, which is also unique because there's not many popular films that have the villain as the driving factor.
No, and it appears on the surface to contradict what I said earlier. We always want an active hero. Well, Batman is quite active.
Oh, very.
It's just and we are tracking his actions in trying to catch the opponent. So in that sense, we could say that the plot is the actions Batman takes to catch the Joker. And so he's very active in that sense. But the key to plot is that this sequence of actions that the opponent is taking are mostly under the surface. We don't see that. And the hero doesn't see it. And that's why we get reveals. That's why we get surprise. It's because what is this? What is a reveal? And plot is based on two major things, conflict and reveals. What is a reveal? A reveal is basically where the hero and the audience realize the move of the opponent. Oh, they just pulled that. I didn't know that. That's going to cause me a big problem. And now I have to deal with it. That's a reveal. So, so the point is that you want to start from the point of view of the opponent. Come up with a sequence of actions they're going to use to defeat the hero, and then hide most of them. And then the sequence of the story is the hero going after his goal, discovering various things that his opponent is doing to try to keep him from getting it. If you use that sequence, that process, writing process, you're 100 times better off than if you do it the normal way, which is, here's my hero, there's my goal, he's going to take action 1, then action 2, action 3, action 4, and so on. It doesn't work.
So basically, without Pepsi, there is no Coke. Without Microsoft, there is no Mac.
Yes.
Because, Coke is only Coke because it had a Pepsi to fight. If it had an RC Cola to fight, it wouldn't have worked as well.
No, not going to work. Not a great story.
Not a good story. You needed the you needed Vanderbilt to go against Rockefeller. You needed those. You need the giant industries. Those two. And at the end of the day, it's two characters that have to battle it out.
That's right.
Good versus bad, and
that's why I always tell writers, never think of your hero and opponent as two separate characters. Yes, they are separate.
Two sides.
But in fact, it is the relationship between them is the most important relationship in the entire story. And that's what you constantly want to be aware of, is the relationship between the two of them and how it goes back and forth as each one gets the upper hand.